Greetings and salutations. This is Addict MMA. I'm Derrick Evil. This is UFC 127 main card breakdown and fight predictions. But before I even get into the 127 fight card, which is going to be a good one, however, I won't have as much to say as I did on the last one. So I just want to recap the last fight card. UFC 126 went down without a hitch. I mean, it was a fantastic fight card. The only disappointments I have from that fight night are that I got 2 predictions wrong out of the 5. But I mean, 3 out of 5 is not bad, right? It's almost half, better than half, I guess, statistically. Whatever. I'm good at this stuff. But, sometimes you get them wrong. I was very, very pleasantly surprised to see Forrest Griffin utilize his jiu-jitsu attack against Rich Franklin. I really wasn't sure that the fight would have gone that much to that direction. I was very happy to see Griffin utilize his skills where he's underestimated. Disappointed because I picked Franklin to win. Very happy to see Forrest Griffin looking amazing as he did. And he almost put down Franklin a couple times. It was just some punches, some strikes. But overall, it was an excellent fight, and I was very, very relieved, or refreshed, I think is a better word, to see Forrest Griffin perform to that level. It was fantastic. I mean, I'm a huge fan. We all love Forrest Griffin. I mean, let's face it, the original Ultimate Fighter. How can you hate the guy? Sometimes we pick fights where he's going to lose, but he comes out on top. So that's cool. It's whatever. Forrest Griffin did great. The main event, obviously, I'm very upset about. Vitor Belfort. I mean, in the history of his career, I don't think that has ever happened where he's been flash KO'd like that. I mean, give it to Anderson Silva. That was like some Zohan crap going on right there. That was that part of the movie where Zohan, what is this? This is not my name. And he holds that guy's little pinky finger, and all of a sudden you just see feet flying up. Take it, not take it. Smell it, don't take it. And that's about what that was the equivalent to. I mean, Anderson Silva was doing his normal, I'm a ninja, go psych you out, and then all of a sudden out of nowhere you just pop, and it's lights out. I mean, I don't even think he changed position. I think his foot just flew up out of nowhere. I mean, that's probably where Adam Sandler learned that particular move for the Zohan movie, because that dude, it was ninja skills, bro, all over the place. So credit goes where it's due to Anderson Silva. However, I still don't like the guy. I still don't like his attitude. He understands English. He speaks English, and you know what? Let's just, before we get any farther into this, let me just say right now that I personally would like to challenge Ed Soares to a fight. You call it an exhibition, you call it whatever you want. Dana White, please make this happen. I want Ed Soares, and I will not rest until I get him. I want him. He gets to wear the little freaking championship belt like he stands there all high and mighty. Look, I was down at the local sports bar and pub watching the fights, having some beer, and let me tell you something. There wasn't one person in that place, whether they were a fan of Silva or against him, that was appreciative of Ed Soares. We all know Silva can speak English, and we don't like Ed Soares walking around like a little punk. You know what he is? He's that little punk boy in school that instead of getting picked on, he decided to kiss the bully's ass all the time and follow him around and do all the little dirty work, and then he starts to think he's the bully. That's Ed Soares. Well, Ed Soares, my 155-pound ass, wants your ass, buddy. I want to take him down. I want to beat him in the face with my elbows. So issuing the challenge, Dana White, Joe Silva, let's make this happen. We'll call it an exhibition. We'll put it on the Spike TV. It'll be phenomenal. It'll be great. And Ed Soares will get his ass beat, and I'll dedicate the fight to Chael Sonnen. All right, moving on. Bones Jones getting the title fight. I'm telling you guys, he's the future of the division, and I pick him to beat Shogun. Too bad for Bader, but what an excellent fight that was. The rest of the night went pretty much how I figured it would go. So anyway, this is UFC 127 fight card predictions and breakdown. This is going to be fun. Just it's kind of a, I guess, your average event. It's got some decent name fighters on here. I mean, what you people will, the casual fan, I would say you people, what the casual fan will look for in a fight card maybe isn't all here unless you know what you're looking for. This is definitely a good fight card, obviously with the main event being John Fitch and BJ Penn, which that's a very good fight right there. That is a that's a super fight, and I can't wait to talk about that. But let's get on to the first one. Ross Pearson taking on Spencer Fisher. That's guaranteed to be a slugfest. I mean, Spencer Fisher might try to utilize some ground game, and I think that he might probably want to do that against Ross Pearson. Ross Pearson probably going to have the reach on him. Both very good boxing ability, kickboxing ability. I think if Spencer Fisher wants to win this fight, he should definitely utilize the ground game against a Ross Pearson type of fighter. With that being said, if it goes too long in a stand-up, I can see Ross Pearson winning this fight by a decision, just because he's got that. He's the reach, and he's powerful, and that's just my opinion. But to call that fight, I'm definitely have to go with Spencer Fisher. In the end, experience in the cage of the UFC, let alone just overall experience in MMA. He's got a ton of it, a ton of heart, a ton of tenacity. I'm going to give it to Spencer Fisher. We'll call it a third round decision. I don't see that fight being finished necessarily, unless it can go to the ground. He can ground and pound his way to a victory, maybe find a submission, but I kind of see that one going to a decision. Moving on to the second fight, we got Kyle Noke, KO Kyle Noke, taking on Chris Camozzi. Both of these guys out of the Ultimate Fighter Season 11. Camozzi was withdrawn on the third episode due to an injury he had in the first episode of it was like the prelim fights to get into the house or something. He got hurt. Chris Camozzi, record of 14-3. This is both of the fighters' fourth fight in UFC. They both had 3 previous fights in UFC. He's a Muay Thai fighter. His most recent victory, Dong Yi Yang. That was via split decision. But, not a big deal. I mean, he's not really been anybody with a credible name, and a split decision victory is a split decision victory. You get it, but it just shows weakness. I mean, if it's a split decision, that means the other guy could have beaten you. He's got good submissions, good chokes, so you definitely want to look out for that when you're on the ground with him, but susceptible to takedowns. Both of these guys are susceptible to takedowns. To be quite honest with you, Kyle Noke, Chris Camozzi, I see this fight being a stand-up fight. Chris Camozzi's a Muay Thai fighter. Kyle Noke winning most of his victories by strikes anyway. But, I mean, a lot of these, he's well-versed in submissions as well. He's got a lot of submissions. I mean, they're not just chokes. He's knee bar, he'll triangle choke you or what have you. So, either way, if these guys go to the ground, because both are susceptible to takedowns, I mean, these guys are probably going to try to take each other down even maybe once or twice, and they'll probably get it each time either one of them tries. They're probably both going to be taken down. Kyle Noke staying a southpaw. I kind of like Kyle Noke on us. Former Elite XC middleweight champion. That means nothing. Trains with Jackson Submission Fighting. That means something. He was Liddell's first pick on the Season 11 Ultimate Fighter. To get right down to it, I think what's going to happen here, the 8-4 Australian, is he's probably going to take it to Camozzi. I think Camozzi's going to put up a good fight. It's going to be a good stand-up fight, and if he can keep the distance with his kicks, talking about Camozzi, if he can keep distance with his kicks, he might be able to do something. But I see Kyle Noke's ground game being a little bit better. And if they try to go to the mat or if they get into a tie-up, I definitely see that going in Noke's favor. Power going in Noke's favor. I'm going to go ahead and say probably second-round TKO I would give to Kyle Noke. Moving on to the next fight, George Sotiropoulos, Dennis Seaver. Very exciting lineup of fight right there. I like Dennis Seaver. I like George Sotiropoulos. For this fight, I'm pulling for Dennis Seaver. I want him to win. He's on his second tourney here in the UFC. He's got a 5-1 UFC record headed here, looking to make it a 6-1. Remember, his first stint in the UFC came short at a 1-3, and they had to release him. He went on, won a fight, came back, and he's been doing well ever since. Dennis Seaver, 17-7, 11 fights in the UFC, looking for his 12th fight in the UFC, looking for his 7th victory in the UFC. 20% of his takedowns land. So, I mean, 20% of his fight is takedowns. And, 20% of his fight is takedowns. He's very good at takedowns. So if he wants Sotiropoulos on the ground, it's going to go there. He's stocky, he's strong, the perfect build for a guy in that weight class to just bulldoze right into you. I mean, believe me, I've worked out with guys like him, and if they want you down, they're going to take you down. It doesn't matter your size, shape, or anything. Color, creed, don't matter. Dennis Seaver, former WAKO German kickboxing champion. That's got to mean something to you guys out there, because Sotiropoulos, as good as his stand-up is, I think that the credentials have to lie on better standings with Dennis Seaver. I think he could probably, keep the fight standing, he'd probably pick him apart pretty good and probably defeat George Sotiropoulos, maybe with that spinning back kick and then follow it up with some punches like he likes to do so often. Dennis Seaver is a purple belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, whereas Sotiropoulos is a black belt. So, I mean, pretty well evenly matched. I would probably have to give the ground game tactics a little bit more to Sotiropoulos. I think for this fight, Seaver maybe want to keep it standing, stay off the ground, pay attention to what happened to old Joe Lozon. And I was very disappointed when Lozon, I'm a big fan of Lozon. I like Sotiropoulos as well. I didn't expect Lozon to get handled as much as he did by Sotiropoulos. Sotiropoulos is very good. Game fighter. What a game fighter. So, to really give it all that, I mean, Seaver, we're talking about a guy who's, like I said, is exciting stand-up. He's got 2 Knockout of the Night awards, 1 Submission of the Night award, and 1 Fight of the Night award. He's definitely somebody to keep your eyes on in this division, and he wants it. He's hungry, man. The guy is hungry. The Russian-German, he's German descent from Omsk, Russia. I like it. I like anybody that's Russian, unless you watch my last one, and, I don't like Fedor too much. George Sotiropoulos, 14-2 black belt Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I've told you that. His only loss in recent years come back, or, his most recent loss, I guess you should say, out of the 2, is all the way back in 2006, man. And that was against Shinya Aoki, who is, the dream, lightweight champion. Everybody loves Shinya Aoki, and everybody uses him on that stupid freaking video game. He's got wins over top guys in that division. Joe Daddy Stevens, Kurt Pellegrino, and obviously most recently Joe Lozon. So most of his wins are by submissions, and most of them are arm bars. So I got to give it to Sideropoulos on the ground. Like I said, if this fight goes to the ground, it's going to be Sideropoulos' game. But I don't think it's going to be a game where he wins by submission. I think that it'll go to a decision. Probably this fight will end in a split decision. Both of these guys are set. I'm going to have to cut that part. But probably this fight is going to be so well evenly matched that if Seaver wants to win the fight, he's going to have to keep it standing. If it goes to the mat, look for Sideropoulos to probably eke out a victory. Decision, split decision, I'm not sure if. So if Sideropoulos wins because it's on the mat, it's probably going to end up in a decision. Seaver wins, I'm thinking TKO if he can keep it standing. Next fight, Michael the Count Bisping takes on Jorge Rivera. I like Jorge Rivera. I don't like Michael Bisping. So in a fight like this, I kind of like let my emotions come into play, and I'm going to pick, well, okay, you know what? Let's say smart money's probably on Michael Bisping. I'm going to pick Jorge Rivera. This guy lost his daughter in 2008. This is only a couple years ago. Now, I've lost a brother 10 years ago. I can understand what it means to lose someone in the family. There's a lot of us out there, a lot of you guys watching at home right now on your computers or wherever, on your mobile phone. A lot of you watch on the mobile phone. You're probably thinking, yeah, I've lost somebody too, and that sucks. Well, that leaves you with a feeling of like, you know, it kind of gives you an appreciation for life because one has been lost, but at the same time, it gives you that drive to just fight like you've got nothing to lose. So, you know, that's where I think he's at. Definitely more hungry, I think, is Jorge Rivera. 44 years old, man. He ain't got much time left in his sport. He's going to have to do something with it, but he's not a guy that gets knocked out too bad either. Bisping, obviously, he's well-rounded stand-up. I think his stand-up is probably a little bit more well-rounded. I don't want to say better. I just want to say he seems more technical, more speedy, more precise on his attack. Bisping is really usually pretty precise on his attack. Ground game could probably go either way. Yeah, I would probably have to say maybe Rivera has got maybe a little bit of an advantage on the ground game. I know some of you out there is kind of going, what the hell is this guy talking about? Well, let's face it, he's a Brit. And not to take away from the British guys, I love you guys. Bought my scooter off a British guy. But the bottom line, you're not known for the ground game. The Brits are not known for the ground game. And everywhere else in the world apparently is. So we're going to have to go ahead and give it to Jorge Rivera. I believe he can win a decision in this fight. I do not think that this fight's going to end in a knockout. Bisping's a very tough guy to knock out unless you catch him just right. And Dan Henderson's about the only one to do that. So I can see this fight going to a decision, split decision, probably. I mean, most of the fights on this fight cards, you know, UFC 127, I see going to a decision. And then when we move on to the main event with BJ Penn versus John Fitch, that has got decision written all over it. John Fitch is a guy, I mean, yeah, they all try to finish their fights. And BJ coming off his exciting, what was that, 20-second, 30-second knockout over Matt Hughes. I mean, that sucked for Matt Hughes. I really would have liked to have seen Hughes win and maybe continue on. That one was going to push him more towards retirement. That one really hurt his feelings, and I hated to see that. But BJ Penn, you know, and I hate to say this, but you really can't use that kind of a victory coming off of Matt Hughes as something he can do to John Fitch. It's two different animals. I mean, if anybody was surprised by the fact that BJ Penn landed a solid punch on Hughes' chin, well, I mean, why would you be surprised? Hughes' stand-up hasn't evolved since this. It's always been right here and slow. And listen, I mean, there's a whole mess of people out there who could probably land a punch on Hughes. It's just BJ Penn landed it, you know, more properly. I mean, these guys know each other. So anyway, I'm going to have to say, look, in this fight, I'm a bigger fan of Fitch than I am of Penn. But technically wise, I think Fitch's ground game is enough to grind out and really put a whooping on old BJ Penn. I mean, he's coming up to welterweight now to do this. And he just lost 2 consecutive fights to Frankie Edgar where he got thrown around by a smaller guy. John Fitch is a bigger guy who can do the same thing, and that's his bread and butter. He grinds on people. He wants to just twist and tie you up and just watch your will just leave you. He loves to grind you to a pulp. That's his business, and business, baby, is good for John Fitch, and I think he's going to continue his winning streak because, remember, his last loss has only come to GSP, you know, put it a year or two ago, and let's just face it, that was GSP. GSP is a freaking phenomenal athlete, and I think he'll stay on top of his division for a very long time. That being said, there's not a whole lot of people out there who can do John Fitch does, and defend against what John Fitch does. I don't think if BJ Penn or if GSP and John Fitch got another fight together, I doubt it would go the same way. I don't know that Fitch would win necessarily, but I don't think it would be such a one-sided beating like it was the last time. He just couldn't. He didn't. It's hard to train for that kind of speed, and GSP has got the speed. That's probably his biggest strength, is just how quick he is. John Fitch is going to grind this out. It's going to be tough against a guy like BJ Penn. We're probably going to see a bit of a stalemate. Going to be a lot of cage clinching. Going to be a lot of ground grappling. You know, going to be a lot of rolling around, looking for little moves here and there, little punches here and there. John Fitch style. If it stays on the stand-up, he's got the distance. He's got the reach. He'll probably have speed just because he's used to being in that division. And, you know, that's BJ Penn putting on a few extra pounds. Usually he slows down a bit when he jumps up to welterweight. So that's it. I'm calling John Fitch unanimous decision for that fight. That has been my UFC 127 fight card prediction and breakdowns. We recapped a little bit on 126. You know, no apologies to any of the Anderson Silva fans out there. I still don't like him, but credit has got to be given where it is due. And, I mean, that was some ninja skill type stuff going on there. And, you know, hats off to Anderson Silva. Quit being a douche. And, again, Joe Silva, Dana White, please. Derrick Evil wants to beat the shit out of, what was his name again? That's right, the little punk-ass Ed Soares. Peace, I'm out.